The Tao of Self-Confidence, episode 888. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits. You can now purchase The Tao of Self-Confidence, a guide to moving beyond trauma and awakening the leader within on Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, Walmart, Indigo, and other major book retailers. Get your copy today. Well, hello, friend. Welcome to The Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who've discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan, and today I have an amazing lady on the show today. She is the director of Flex Talent Solutions, which is part of Marriott International, and I'm super excited to have her on and share her story with us today on self-confidence. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Amy Geiger. Amy, how are you today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Doing well today, and thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. So as you mentioned, I'm the director of Flex Talent Solutions at Marriott International at our headquarters, which is our internal contingent workforce program as a part of our talent acquisition group. I've been in my current role for about 2 years, but I'm not a stranger to a Marriott or hospitality. I started my career working at Ritz-Carlton Properties many moons ago. And then after a few career pivots, landed in staffing. Isn't that how we all kind of land in staffing, is sort of by accident and by pivoting? And so now to be doing the staffing component of Marriott and bringing it all full circle is what I'm doing today. So glad to be here with you.
Awesome, and super excited to have you on today. And I know we're part of the US PEC WISE cohort program, which has been super amazing to connect with amazing ladies such as yourself and being able to share your story. And Amy, what's your cultural background?
My goodness, I am probably best defined as Western European, but a whole mix of things that I haven't been able to put my finger on. I know that I have some Lithuanian, some Irish coming from my two parents, different sides, and then a few other things in there. I think I most properly think of my background as having grown up in Southeast Pennsylvania and being outside Philadelphia. I think that's influenced my cultural background more than anything.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And what would be your favorite self-confidence quote?
So my favorite quote would have to be, if you don't go after what you want, you'll never have it. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. If you don't step forward, you're always in the same place. And I think the part of that quote that I repeat the most often is, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. I encourage my team to follow that motto on a regular basis. I encourage my children to follow that motto on a regular basis. It's sort of a guidepost for how I like to think of myself as trying to be brave in new circumstances. If you don't ask, you absolutely will not have that. And so why not give it a try?
Thanks for sharing that quote. And, I'm a huge advocate for asking questions. So I love that part as well in the quote. If you don't ask, the answer is no, right? I mean, I know it's scary sometimes, especially growing up in school. You're afraid to put your hand up because you're afraid of saying the wrong answer. I mean, for me, it's like, I'd rather know than not know. Even if it's a no, that's fine. At least I went for it. And it's not as bad as it always seems. But imagine the people who do say yes and the opportunities that can come to you just by simply asking that question. So I love that quote that you mentioned. And in your own words, how do you define self-confidence?
I think self-confidence is something that gives you the ability to be brave and the ability to show up in different spaces unapologetically yourself. I think that self-confidence is knowing who you are and having taken the time to learn about yourself and then present yourself in the exact same way and not showing up unauthentically. I think self-confidence can lead you to be a stronger leader, a more caring and empathetic individual with all sorts of different groups that you see yourself in, whether at work or socially with your family. So self-confidence for me is who you are, knowing who you are, and presenting yourself in that exact same way, being extremely authentic and brave enough to be that way.
Thanks for sharing that. And, it's not always easy to show up as our authentic self, especially as women. We're a little bit more, we're a little bit more emotional than men. And, it's hard sometimes to show up like that, right? If we're going through something thinking that's going to be our weakness, when really vulnerability can be our biggest strength. And it does take a lot of bravery to share, like, I'm not feeling good today. I feel like crying, or I want to hide from the world. And being able to authentically express that, other people, especially women, can relate to that and realize, it's just all part of the process. So I love that definition that you mentioned. And Amy, what was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence?
You defined it really well. The unwillingness to even raise your hand and ask a question because you were afraid that that question might be a dumb question or that you might be looked at or perceived a different way. Life is certainly harder when you don't have self-confidence. I think you don't know who you can trust. You don't know if you can trust yourself. You don't necessarily take advantage of every opportunity that might come your way. And then you might be left with feeling with regret, which I think is just one of the biggest problems of lacking self-confidence is, looking back and wishing that you might have or would have taken an opportunity that came your way. So life was certainly challenging. I mean, I think anybody would agree that you don't know your true self for many, many years of your life, and you get to know yourself through your friendships and through your work partnerships. Over time, you start to build out what you feel like is your true and best self. And then you get to start to present that to others. So it was certainly harder. I certainly have some regrets, missed opportunities, things I wish I would have said and didn't, things that I might have said that I didn't mean, all sorts of scenarios that kind of float through your head and go, man, if I were the person that I am today back when I was confronted with that exact situation, and it all ties back to being self-confident, I would have handled that a lot differently. Maybe it would have gone another way.
Thanks for sharing that. And I think that's something we can all definitely relate to, especially having those regrets. If I had a little bit more confidence, I could have gotten that promotion, or I could have started my own business, or I could have climbed that mountain, right? There's so many things that could happen, but I also believe everything happens for a reason, right? We're in we're at the right place at the right time for a certain reason. And when we look back, we're like, oh, now I know I went through all those things. So I'm glad you're able to share that. And what was that point in your life when you realized you were more than enough to go out there and, be who you are today? Especially, working for corporate is not always easy as a woman. There's lots of challenges, but you kept on going. You saw your worth. But what was that aha moment that gave you that realization?
I don't know that there was a single aha moment, but I certainly know that my confidence was built up by others seeing more in me than I saw in myself. And I am grateful to those mentors and even peers. And, my husband is very supportive and offers me or, encourages me to show up in a lot of ways that I may not on my own. Mentors along the way throughout my career have given me little like almost like stairs. I picture them like each one of them has gotten me up another like stair as I've gone up towards the top where I feel much more self-confident. But I think that I needed to have exposure to different opportunities and have somebody kind of look at me and go, you can do this. And then the success of that moment comes from me. I have to deliver on that opportunity. I have to actually make something out of it. But somebody giving me the opportunity or somebody coming to me and showing me, the more I said yes and the more I accepted, the more confident I became. I credit some of the opportunities of stepping into a leadership role in terms of managing others and having a large team of people underneath me was probably the biggest aha moment I had, where people were looking at me to lead and I was doing it. And I was, I sort of surprised myself that I was able to come into that and while I didn't know all the answers, I knew where to go to look, or I knew who to talk to, and I knew how to kind of show up and be brave, not just for me, but for my team that I was sort of representing in every day. And I think that role that I had, and that would be, when I was in staffing, probably led me to the point where I felt like, okay, now I can definitely do anything I set my mind to at this moment. And it's all up to me. If there's an opportunity, it presents itself, I can show up and I can take it, I can make it happen. So not really an aha, but definitely a turning point, thanks to great mentors who believed in me.
Thanks for sharing that. And it's important to have that support to, realize that because sometimes we have a lot of blind spots, right? We feel like we're not good enough, our self-worth is low, and then when we see it from somebody else's eyes, they think, "Oh, you're amazing." And that makes a whole difference in the world when someone else believes in us, in our capabilities, and what we can achieve. It makes a huge difference. It basically changes the way you see yourself because of it. And so for me, help is really important. Having that support system, having the community, surrounding yourself with people who will lift you up when times are tough is really important in all our journeys, whether it's personal or business or in our careers. And because of that realization, what's your life been like now?
Life is good. Life is good. Life is exciting. And I would not be able to take on a lot of the new and exciting initiatives that I'm currently working on had it not been for some of those aha moments and that turning point to lead me to a place of self-confidence. My team that I lead is larger than it's ever been before. The number of initiatives that we've started to plug away at are growing. I'm currently trying to expand our contingent workforce program into other regions of the world. And that's not something that Marriott as a company has really tried to centralize previously. It's very all over the place. And so I don't know that I would have the guts to try to take a program global within my first couple of years of being here if it weren't for the fact that I just very intrinsically believe that I can do it if I just put my head down and I go to work and I be patient and I allow myself to make mistakes. Life is really good when you are able to just sort of believe in yourself and then also allow yourself to have that grace to not be perfect. Self-confidence doesn't mean that, everything I do goes right every single time. It's again, climbing up those steps and being afraid to slip backwards and having a great support system around you. And so I feel really good in my personal life and my work-life balance. Again, in my family, I'm very fortunate to be in a position of having support around me and being able to continue to chase after my dreams. I'm a mom of two little guys, but I also, love my career and love to travel. It's part of one of the greatest things about working for Marriott is the ability to meet our property leaders where they are and go spend time out in the market. And so that is another thing that comes from this self-confidence is being able to couple what I love with the work that I do and having others believe in me and support me as well.
Thanks for sharing that. And yeah, I'm pretty sure you have great perks working for Marriott, being able to stay at the nice hotels that's around the world and being able to travel. So I'm glad that you're able to, go out there and do amazing things, do things that you never thought was possible because you have belief in yourself and you also have a team that will also, help you along the way as well. And to the woman who's listening to your episode, she may be in a similar journey to self-confidence. What do you got one tip you'd give to her?
I have two quotes. So first one is that if you do not ask, the answer is always no. The second one is why not me? Why not me? Why not you? Why couldn't that person be you? Why wouldn't that position be available to you? Or why couldn't you take on that next project? And when you start to make a list in your head of all the negatives, start to make sure that you also list in all of the positives and that actually could work if I did that. The more you start to change the narrative around the things that scare you or feel bigger than you, then you'll start to actually see that a lot more is possible than you would actually have given yourself credit for previously. That whole sentence, the answer is always no. If you don't ask, has led me to just ask some really ridiculous things that I never thought I would be able to pull off. I laugh about it sometimes. Like, I cannot believe that answer was actually yes. And then the why not me is part of how I got into a job. I feel like I have my dream job. Like, I couldn't have written the full circle moment any better, but I had no business applying for this job, but I did. I convinced myself that I did. And I showed up for the interviews like I did. And like, I wanted it and I believed it. And I actually had a lot of skill sets. And you come to find out later on that you made a good impression and that you were way more qualified than you ever gave yourself credit for. Why do we doubt ourselves? Why do we let ourselves believe that we wouldn't be good enough? We couldn't show up at a room, that our ideas wouldn't be taken seriously. My final piece of advice is ask that question, why not me? And then say, it can be me. It's going to be me. I'm going to go ahead and just make that happen.
Thanks for sharing those great tips. And I love especially, asking questions because I also say that a lot. Even sometimes I'll even start the sentence with, this may sound like a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. And yeah, you'd be surprised who says yes, who's going to answer you. And it just gives you that confidence to keep moving forward. So I love those tips that you mentioned. And if our listeners wanted to get to know a little bit more about you and what you do, is there any links or social media profiles we can connect with?
I am on LinkedIn, Amy Geiger. That's my name. And that's probably the best place to find me right now.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And to our listeners, if you want to connect with Amy, you can also head on over to the taoofselfconfidence.com and search for Amy's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else that we talked about. And I really just want to thank Amy today for taking the time to share her story and tips with us on self-confidence. So thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you, Sheena. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. It's such an honor to have you on the show. And to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. You can order your copy of Asian Women Who Boss Up book by visiting our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits.